All right, we're live. Are we ready? Dean's ready, thumbs up. Caleb's ready, thumbs up. Scott's ready, thumbs up. And we'll get started. Thumb sideways.
Didn't even give me time to look at the rundown.
Oh, yeah. Like that's going to be different from any other week. Well, you got a laptop in front of you? All right. Let's get started. Welcome into the Bite Me podcast. This is John Lopez. That is Captain Dean Thomas. That is Captain Scott Knoll. And that guy over there with the hat on is Caleb McCumber. Actually, they're all wearing hats. You're wearing.
Say, wait a minute.
Yeah, you're all wearing. You're wearing the N hat on there. Big show today, man, guys. We got a lot of stuff happening, a lot of stuff percolating, and let's start with this. First of all, we get, like I said, we have a lot of things in motion here. But I know a lot of people are going to be excited about this. How about two tickets to Chris Stapleton Saturday night at Minute Maid Park in Houston? And we're going to do it a little different this time because I always say, hey, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. A lot of you guys have, thousands of you have, and we appreciate that. Right now, if you're listening live, and even if you're not, I kind of wanted to make it fair for everybody because not everybody can listen live on YouTube. In fact, the vast majority, 90% of our listeners are on the recording on their favorite app. But so I'm making it fair for everybody. If you go to Podbean, and the link is on the Bite Me group page, which we always encourage you to join. The link to the Bite Me podcast on Podbean is on the group page, or you can go to Podbean and search Bite Me Podcast. And if you subscribe, actually, I did the wrong link, but I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to change it. If you subscribe to the Bite Me Podcast, you're going to be able to, tonight, I'm going to draw two pair of two tickets to the concert, and we will give those away. So be sure to do that. And this is on Podbean. You can subscribe anywhere. But if you go to the Podbean, you can get it. Also, we have a lot of stuff happening with the Bite Me Feeding Frenzy presented by On Point Roofing. And that is, we've got a lot of people that are going to be going down there. We have a lot of people that are asking about it. And, of course, we want you to set your calendar. We are within a month of being it's going to be a big event, big event. A lot of people giving donations. We have a lot of people that are, I'm picking up some this week, and a lot of people contributing. It's going to be a lot of fun. But let's start right here. I'm going to dig right into the topics because we've got a full slate today. And, you know, Dean, I'm going to start with you because this is one that I think Scott and I, and maybe Caleb, have touched on way back in the day. But there's good reason to talk about this. And this is specific to your dad or your mom in some cases, or your uncle. But this is the topic. That is, if it wasn't for my dad. Now, you can replace that dad with whomever was your biggest influence. But if it wasn't for my dad, let's fill in the blanks on that. And where we all are sitting right now, Dean, and what you do for a living and what we all have a passion for. If it wasn't for my dad, fill in the blanks and share whatever information you'd like to.
Well, I have a bit of an extended way to explain that today. So, and if it wasn't for my dad, we wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation today in more ways than one. So grew up in Houston, north side of Houston. At a very young age, my dad took me fishing. 3 years old, we used to go to Texas City Dike way back in the day. Fishing from the bank, it's where it all started. And it's crazy that to be so young, I still remember those trips. I mean, those things that get in your head, they really never leave you. I mean, I remember sitting down there, walking on those rocks, crabbing, fishing. We would stay overnight for the weekends. Some of the greatest memories of my childhood, walking on those rocks. And then as I grew up, as we went on, and some of our listeners, I mean, I know we got guys from Chocolate Bayou. I was raised up on Chocolate Bayou. We had a cabin with a boat lift and a boat stall. Mm-hmm. So when we got a boat, we spent every weekend at the cabin. It was a cool place. Lutz Marina. Some people may remember Lutz Marina, Big Larry, Captain Larry. And the way we discovered that place, I mean, to back up a little bit, where I grew up on the north side of Houston, our neighbor across the street from us was Larry Hawkins.
Mm-hmm.
He had a camp on Chocolate Bayou, and he actually managed a gas station. He gave up his gas station and went full-time shrimping on Chocolate Bayou. Ran a shrimp boat and a bait house at Lutz Marina. And Lutz was pretty cool, man. You pulled your trailer up, they put it on a lift. They raised the boat off the trailer, swung it out in the air, and lowered it down in the water. So from, I don't know, probably about 8 or 9 years old until 12 or 13, we had that camp. And even Big Larry, he had one of those houses out on a reef in Chocolate Bay. So when you would come out of Chocolate Bayou and it would open up into the bay, there's a reef that parallels the channel all the way out to West Bay. And there were cabins all along there. So we used to spend 2 or 3 weeks in the summer living out there on the cabin with my dad, with Larry, with his kids. Many years of doing that. And so, yeah, I mean, through all of those years, watching those guys fish, watching my dad, watching them do what they do. I mean, I grew up wanting to be like them. It's like I wanted to, it's all I ever wanted to do. Even as I got older and I got a job, I felt like I was in prison because all I wanted to do was be fishing. And that came, I mean, from a very early age. Even when I was 18 years old, the first major purchase I ever bought in my life was a fish camp in Matagorda. I bought me a little trailer right there on the river. And through all those years, mom and dad came down, spent numerous weekends, barbecuing, cooking on the pier, living the life. Then as that progressed, went to, got a chance. I was working in the oil field, relocated from Houston to Corpus Christi, bought my house in Aransas Pass, fished there. And through all those years, my family treated my place like Club Med. They came to, there was somebody at the house every weekend, which mom and dad came down, came and watched the kids grow up fishing. And so, yeah, without my dad, we would not be here, wouldn't be having this conversation through all of those experiences, a lifetime of fishing with him. And the reason I tell everybody this story today, and the reason I'm on location here in Houston today, is my dad took a tumble 2 weeks ago. He's 84 years old now. He cracked some bones in his neck and he's in a hospital. So he's making a recovery. He's doing the best he can, but it is a hell of a struggle. Took a break from the hospital today to come here. Little break from that, visit with you guys and talk fishing stories. But the point is, if you have someone who inspired you, if you have someone who you're thankful that they instilled that adventurous lifestyle, thank them today.
Yeah.
Go hug their neck. Do not let a day go by that you do not be thankful for that and aware of it and observe it, because it is life-changing. And there's going to be a day whenever when you wish you would have if you didn't.
Yeah. And that's why I wanted to bring it up. I lost my dad at a relatively early age, but his influence was enormous. And Caleb, I'm going to you next because you obviously have similar experiences, but I want to spend some time on this, go around. My thing that I still sort of laugh about, but it's also kind of very important to me. The day I was 24 years old when my dad died. So the day after he passed, before the funeral and everything else, you know what I did? I went fishing. I went fishing, and I went by myself. And man, I'm kind of tearing up here, but I went by myself, and I went out just on my little old boat. Didn't have much money. Went out, went fishing, and I'll be damned if I didn't catch like probably 35 trout. And so I still mark that and it's over in Matagorda. It's back when I was visiting East Matagorda, Caleb. You know, I'm just pulling the boat, and it's in East Matagorda. And on I still, even all the different, you know, GPS and sonars that I've had since then, that was a little handheld thing, and on it might have been on a map. Anyway, I marked it Dad Spot, and so I still have Dad Spot on my sonar to this day. But Caleb, we're not going to get, you know, we don't want to just you know, be tear jerking here all day, but this is important because what's, you know, happening with Dean, and everybody listening has that influence somewhere, you know. Go ahead, Caleb.
Yeah, you know, I lost my dad pretty early. I lost my dad pretty early, and he's a big part of my fishing. He taught me all about it, being bass fishing and that kind of stuff. But let's see, without my dad, I wouldn't have been 6% body fat and still had love handles in college. So thanks for those genetics,
There
Dad.
is that. There is genetics.
Yeah, the things that come out of my mouth and offend 90% of the population. Thanks for that, Dad.
Yeah.
I don't know, probably the biggest thing that I have to thank my old man for is one of these mornings this week on the outdoor show with Mickey and James were making a comment that I was a young guy, but you know, they liked my personality and everything. And one thing my dad was very good at was just kind of being humble and always being, or at least appearing to be, part of the level population. My dad was a pretty well-known artist and pretty well-known guy, but he did the self-deprecating humor a lot, and just like me, when he appeared boastful, it was just him screwing around and having fun with it. So you know, teaching me how to not be a dick is probably my favorite thing about my dad.
That's always important. And that's, Scott, I know, you know, you still have your dad, and that's obviously, you know, a blessing, but I know that influence, man, it just keeps on keeping on.
Yeah. He always made sure I got to go with him. You know, he'd walk out on the North Jetty at Galveston. I was a little dude, man. I was rock hopping with him. I mean, I was 5, 6, 7 years old, rock hopping all the way out to the boat cut on the end of the North Jetty. He took me every time he got a chance, you know, even with all his buddies were going, I was tagging along. And I'm surprised I didn't run into Dean, because we were on Texas City Dike all the time at night. We were at Lutz Marine a lot. We were in the same places. We used that boat lift many times, but you know, didn't have, you know, a huge amount of money growing up, but Dad always made sure we had a boat and that we could get out there and go fish. And without that, I wouldn't have been able to do all I did. And I guess part of it is my mom and dad trusted me enough to let me go. You know, I mean, I had a John boat. I was probably 16 years old, and I had a John boat that I look back at my kids at 16 years old, and I don't think I'd have turned them loose.
I wouldn't have. I agree.
I mean,
ain't no way. Ain't no way.
I was free to go, man. Just go have fun, be safe. And I got, you know, working at, my mom was the one who came home and said, "Hey, I just found this new place that you're going to love. I was out Christmas shopping for you and found this place called Marburgers. It's over in Pasadena, and they had a help wanted sign. I think you ought to probably go over there and apply." And I wasn't even driving yet. And she drove me over there, and I applied for the job and got it, and ended up working at Marburgers. So I was on the police department. And through that, I got to meet all the old time guides, you know, the Wendy Marshalls, Marshall Deal, all those old time guides around Galveston who were famous, you know, back in the day. They were the dudes. And by working there, they picked up on me as a young kid that really liked it, you know, and got it and enjoyed the fishing. And they would take me out on their days off, and especially Wendy. Wendy was a big influence, and they just kind of took me under their wing, said, "Come on, you know, let's go fish." And we're out scouting today. Just come on with us. And that was, I mean, it's cool as hell for a little kid.
You can't put a price on it.
No. And I got to learn a whole lot from those guys. And then one other that I got to mention is Frank Caney. I was dating his daughter, and he was just a fishing nut. I mean, the guy fished all the time. He worked on the docks down in Port of Houston, and he was off more than he was working. I mean, he was constantly. If it was good weather, we had a light southeast. We were going to the surf, man. Hell of work. And we had some great guys going and doing that. And he taught me a lot about throwing lures and reading water. And just, I had so many good people that took me in and taught me a little bit here, a little bit there, and mainly just took me. You know, so that's a big lesson in all of this is you got a neighbor kid, doesn't even have to be your own kid. But if you're friends with their parents and they trust you to take those kids fishing, man. I used to do it every now and then when I got a chance, and it means the world to them. You know, you don't realize it at the time, but now looking back, those guys probably didn't think twice about what the influence would be on me in the long run.
Yeah.
They took the time and got me out there and showed me a lot of things and gave me the confidence to go on my own and go find fish.
And that's what I'm talking about, Dean, and we'll move on after this, but you know, you talked about, you know, you wouldn't be here. I don't think any of us would be here without that influence, whether it was your dad or someone else. But the other thing is, there's a lot of young people that listen to this podcast, a lot of young parents, young moms and dads, and let's say they have 3 kids. Like I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters, but my 2 brothers, neither one of them was that into it, and that was cool. You know, that was cool. I got into it, and I was like, just, you know, I was stuck to my dad every time he would go fishing. So that's the lesson. Yeah, you take them and find out.
And the interesting thing about kids, and whenever the kids are around you, as adults, we're just doing what we do. My dad, he was doing what he did. His buddies, they were doing what they did. We were there, and every word that comes out of their mouth sticks to kids like glue. You don't realize the influence you have on them. Man, for 15 years, I was a scoutmaster with these kids, and a lot of moms brought their kids to scouts to get them a little male influence in their life and take them out on these trips. And man, we used to be sitting around, you know, the other dads that were there, and we were talking amongst our normal selves and being ourselves. And then I would hear what those kids would repeat, and I was like, dang, we got to be careful what we say. But yes, the simplest things that you do as an adult, setting an example for those kids. Hey man, some examples are good, some are others. I'll tell you another stuff. So we at Liverpool is where Lutz Marina was. I haven't been to Liverpool in 30 years. It's probably a suburb of Houston now. Back then, it was the edge of civilization. There was one restaurant there. It was called the Amsterdam. And when I say all influences maybe weren't that good, I drank my first beer at the Amsterdam at probably 12 years old. Yeah. But back in the day, you know, you did what you did. Yeah. Dad, we, you know, you want to hang with the guys, have a beer. I sat out there and puked my guts in that parking lot as a very young man. So yeah, some influences were positive, others maybe not so much.
I can remember mine. Falstaff, baby.
it was the best time. It was the best times of my life down there.
And so you kids that are watching and listening to this, you see what happens to you if you start drinking beer at 12 years old.
Yeah, exactly. Are we really an inspiration here? Are we really an inspiration?
Hey, believe it or not, mine was Shiner. Believe it or not,
go figure.
First beers were Shiners.
How about you, Caleb? We got to go around the horn. Mine was Falstaff.
I stole my dad's Yellow Bellies, the Coors Originals, because we was Cowboys. Right. That's what we drank.
Yeah, that's.
I had a talk with a kid the other day. I said, "Your dad ain't as stupid as you think he is, and he's gonna be gone before you know it. You better figure it out and quit fighting him now." I also said I didn't quit fighting mine until I was 30, so I understand where you're at. But he ain't the dumbass you think he is.
Well,
it's a
here's the other thing through this podcast. Dean and I, the young man that stuck his head over my shoulder a minute ago, Dean and I have known him since he was little bitty, and he's been fishing with me the last 2 days. And I was just talking to his dad outside, Casey Smart. He used to write for the Texas Saltwater Fishing Magazine with me, and he had asked him what he wanted to do, end of summer kind of deal. And he's grown. He's graduated college now, and he's out on his own. But I think it was a birthday thing. Anyway, he asked him what he wanted to do. He said, "Well, I've been listening to the podcast all this time, and I can't believe these guys. And I want to go fishing with Capt Scott and go chase some tarpon. That's what I really want to do." And that's cool, man. I mean, I've known that kid since he was little bitty, and he's running around, and Dean too. And for him to watch us and listen to us and be that into it, that's what he wants to come do. And his dad said, "Absolutely, let's go do it."
So while you got him out there for 2 days, encourage him to go get a job, and with the 401k, and
he's got a job. He's got a good job.
Well, okay, there you go. Make sure you have one of those, and then go fishing.
Well, one of the things I told him, because he said something about, he said, "I always kind of wondered about being a guide," and he had a lot of questions about it, about what we do and, any suggestions, that kind of stuff. And I said, my suggestion is don't do that. Go have your real job, make your real money, and then use that real money to go fishing and have fun and do it on your own. Don't make fishing into a job.
So to wrap up this whole conversation about dads, influences, and genetics, I just got a text from my kid that said, "Will you come pick me up?" I said, "I thought you were riding the bus." He said, "I was late and I missed it." I said, "Well, I guess you can stand in front of the junior high until 4:30.
Hey, wouldn't it be cool? Wouldn't it be cool if it was raining?
They don't fall far, man. They don't fall far at all.
So be very, very careful in who you pick for your wife, because that shit runs downhill and they can get stuff from their partner.
As you guys were talking, and I'm just thinking about all those trips and stuff, and I promise we're gonna move on here, but like one of my fondest memories was like the miserable times. Like we would get up and drive down to, let's say, Aransas Pass or Mustang Island or wherever. That's where we went a lot, out of San Antonio when I was growing up. And we would sleep in my dad's car. And I had the back seat, he had the front seat, and it would get hot. And so we'd crack the windows. And I remember just getting eaten up by mosquitoes. And now it's like a fond memory, because I knew I only could sleep for a couple of hours, and then we'd be up before daylight fishing. And I'm like, all right, I can put up with these mosquitoes for a little bit. That doesn't happen as much anymore, but it did then.
Yep.
All right. So a little reminder here for those who are listening to this podcast. We're live on YouTube right now, but we're going to post it here as soon as we're done. And so if you're listening on the recording, you have a chance to win a pair of tickets to Chris Stapleton at Minute Maid Park. And that's going to be Saturday. So all you have to do is subscribe to the podcast on Podbean. Search Bite Me Podcast on Podbean, and they're good seats. Perry Bauman is donating them, 2 pair of 2. So 2 of you are going to win. Section 107, row 32. So these are really good seats. So just subscribe to the podcast on Podbean, and we're going to draw that tonight or tomorrow morning, and we'll let you know if you win. All right. So, one more thing here. This doesn't apply to you 3 guys. I think y'all are on a different schedule, but it is fishing license time. And so we have so many people listening to us. I just bought mine yesterday. I've got the August thing. Some people do year since you purchased, year from purchase. But I did want to remind everybody, y'all don't buy your licenses at the same time we do, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you do? I thought it was all
first.
August.
Okay. I thought it was different that, because you had all that other stuff you got to do as well.
No,
So
we just pay more.
Y'all got your licenses all set? We're good? We're good?
Have not done that yet.
Neither one, none of y'all?
I've been looking around with some of my peers, and turns out you really don't need one.
I mean,
Thanks for the reminder, though.
I still got 11 days. What are you talking about?
Yes. See, that's the difference. That's why I'm so anal and I'm obsessed with this stuff. Like, to me, my thing was yesterday I bought it. oh shoot, I only got 12 days. And y'all are like, I still got 11 days.
The difference between us and y'all is we can't go to academy, and we have to go. I go to a
I
big
did mine
city.
online. I did mine on
you
my
have
phone.
to go in person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Y'all have to go
You
in
got to
person?
go to the TWD office.
Well, then I'd really freak out if it was. I would not be saying we still got 11 days.
I'll
Well, it
make
doesn't
about
take 11 days to get there, John.
Well, I know that, but I'd freak out.
I mean, mine's in Victoria.
Yeah, we'll see.
45 minutes.
Okay, we'll go get it in gear. Let's go.
Hey, man,
I'm worried about
I got one in Rockport. It's 10 minutes from the house.
I
The
got my
line's gonna be
WWDD
long though, man. The line will be like 11 days long though.
Yeah, exactly.
I got the fun one. I got that orange MMC book. I get to go pee in a cup and do the cough test and everything, and then I get my license.
How come?
Every 5 years you have to renew your merchant mariner credentials, and you have the reason you have to go in person is we have to give them that orange book to get the other one.
Oh, okay.
Good times.
You guys are special. All right, so how about a topic here from one of our listeners, and I think all of y'all are going to be great on this, what a tailing area looks like, and this is the question. When there's no bait, what kind of areas do you guys try to put the odds in your favor? In other words, what does a tailing redfish spot look like, or a redfish spot? What are the characteristics? And he said, like, what are the characteristics? So I'm guessing it's a young person. Like, what are the characteristics, Caleb? Go ahead.
Tail sticking out of the water that
Now, see, the question is not that necessarily. I said redfish type areas. I knew
that
what
would be
was
the
coming.
characteristics of a spot where redfish could be tailing.
I knew it. Do you see that tail over there? I'm guessing there's tailing redfish over there.
Yeah, bam. Glad to help, young man.
Yeah, see there? Like, what are the characteristics?
I don't know. Less than 3 feet of water, probably some shrimp or some
Grass?
crabs in the area. Grass doesn't matter. I don't have grass anywhere in Matagorda, and I'll find them tailing. Now, a lot of the times they're tailing along the shoreline here. I don't see them tailing out in the middle like where Scott is. They can be tailing out in the middle of a big cove. Over here, since it's shallower on the edges and gets deeper, they're going to be on the edges 9 times out of 10 over here. But yeah, I mean, shallow water where there could be shrimp or crabs is really the only 2 things that pretty well have to happen.
Or Scott, do you just keep moving, or do you feel like something is happening? He's saying, there's no bait, but what looks fishy, that kind of thing. This is a tough question in a lot of ways.
You don't always see the bait if it's crabs and shrimp. What we're seeing as bait, what we always tell y'all, look for the bait. That's bait fish for the most part. For tailing fish, they need to have something on the bottom that they're interested in. That's the characteristic. I mean, and like Galveston, I would find tailing fish in Galveston around oysters. Any place that had spotty oysters, in a back lake, shallow water, and then up against the cordgrass. Like if the grass was growing into the water, the water was up high enough, then they'd tail up into that grass. Here in Port O'Connor, it can be anywhere that there's grass on the bottom, shell, even some mud areas where they're trying to dig crabs out of the mud. But there has to be something on the bottom that they're interested in order for them to tilt up like that. One thing that a lot of people overlook is, Caleb said shallow water. Well, your fish aren't always as long as the water is high, but they still tail.
Yeah.
They'll tail in 3 feet of water. And there's times when I'm up on the platform, I can see the tails tailing underwater. Yeah, I'll see the tails waving while they're got nose down and they're doing their thing. So
mind blown right there.
But by definition, they're not tailing.
Yeah,
they're just poking their nose in the bottom at that point.
They're feeding, but
they're like mavericks.
Their tails are up. Their tails are up.
Exactly. I noticed the tails.
I got Scott on this one.
They weren't above the water, but I noticed the tails.
That's not a point in your favor when John has you on this one, Scott.
Yes, it is too. Yes, it is too. They're going like this.
And
I've seen that a lot down in like the land cut, lower Laguna area where their nose is down and their tail is up and there's still 6 inches of water on top of it. And Scott's right, that happens, but never once have I said, "Look at those reds tailing."
That is, you beat me to it. I've seen that. I have never called that tailing reds.
Yeah.
No, hey,
But-
hey.
so
Scott,
here's
Harry
an-
Bauman wants to know what a tailing hardhead area looks like.
Well, that too.
Very similar to the
It's
tailing
a,
redfish
well,
area.
and there's one more aspect to the tailing reds. Reds have to be in a good mood. They have to be vigorously feeding to get their tails out. When you're on a good feeding time, whenever they're really in a good mood and they're aggressively rooting stuff out of the grass, they're busy. That's when they get their tails up. They're going to be more aggressively feeding when I find them tailing. You don't
I
find
find
lazy
that your wife
redfish tailing.
Your wife also has to be in a good mood to achieve that status.
This is true.
Hey, couple margaritas.
What does that area look like?
What you do is you put the margarita down on the floor and tell her to pick it up.
Head down, tail up. Head down.
She's like, "Where's my drink?" Oh, it's down there under the bar.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody said they're handstanding fish. They're handstanding fish. See, we got to compromise. They're not tailing because they're not out of the water, but they're handstanding fish. All right, so here's another one for you guys, and this actually, this just was something I came up with because Scott was answering a Facebook post on our group page, and it was about moving spots. He had a reply on a Facebook. I know you know what I'm talking about, Scott. So I'll start with you. Like, do you even know why you're moving to another spot?
I remember that.
Huh? You don't remember?
You think I remember what I said? I have fished like 20 something of the last.
This was yesterday or day before.
Yeah.
Hey, John, pose it as a new question.
All right, I have a new question. The question is, do you even know why you're moving to another spot? Now, one of our co-hosts here, one of our captains, may or may not have answered a post on Facebook about.
What did I say?
I don't remember what you said, but it got me thinking.
You don't remember either.
They were talking about like, why would I move? What makes you move? All that stuff, and it got me thinking. Some people just move to move, But do you even know why you're moving? I mean, you have to have a reason for that, and you've talked about like similar areas or whatever, but ain't no fish left. Boy, this is just spiraling way out of control.
Too hot. Then August for any reason to move.
I need to turn the air conditioning on.
I moved because I'm looking for a pattern. I'm looking for a pattern in the fish, and I'm going to move. If I'm not finding fish there, I'm going to move to a new area that has some type of a different bottom, some type of a different flow to it. If it's a protected area, I'm going to get to a windy area. If it's a shell area or with mud, I'm going to move to a grass area. That's why I would move, is if I feel like the pattern isn't fitting where I am and there might be another pattern to pick up on.
So they're not doing this. So they're doing that.
Right.
I'm with Caleb though. Like, it gets tough in the summertime, man. Sometimes I make those decisions a lot quicker than I would otherwise. I mean, go ahead, Caleb, because okay, so you're picking up, nothing's happening with like what Scott said with the situation that you're in. What makes you move and where you going?
I mean, Dean said it all. Ain't no fish here. I haven't been catching anything. I might.
Yeah, but when you move, you're not going to the same type of spot.
I could
necessarily.
I was in that spot because I felt like there should be fish in an area like that. So I might go to a different one. I might move because the tide started moving and I want to go get in front of a cut or a drain. I mean, I might go right around and look for something. There's really no set of rules to it except there ain't no fish there. The rest of it is all it's up for debate. The rest of it.
Well, the tough thing, go ahead, Dane, because the tough thing for me is when to move, if not counting when I'm 150 degrees body temperature. Well, but you know what I'm saying?
At this time of year, I move even when the fish are biting. I run around and come back to the same spot. just to make the wind blow. But I mean, it's all a part of searching and looking and trying to figure it out. I mean, you head out there in the morning, you have a grand plan in your head of what you're going to do. Some days I stop and I'm on the troll motor for 4 hours and never crank up again because it's working for me. Some days within 10 minutes, you just lose that warm, fuzzy feeling about what you're doing. And then it's time to start looking. And yeah, I mean, you do, you know, you're in an area and it's not working. And my mind is always wondering. I mean, I'm 2 or 3 moves ahead of myself as the day goes on. It's like, what am I going to hit next? How long am I going to sit there if it works out? How much time do I want to dedicate to an area? So I'm usually, I mean, it's just a running plan in the head of how long I'm going to hang out in a place. If in the hotter months, I'm not going to sit and grind out in one spot and think I can get them. You know, October, November, December, if it's slow for a while, I'm going to dedicate more time to certain areas because I feel like it's going to happen or I can make it happen there. So that there's a lot of variety to that question. Seasonally, it changes. Yeah, I mean, it's probably one of the biggest questions that you're faced with every day.
So, to be fair, you didn't frame that question the same way that it was framed in there.
Oh shit,
No,
he's already.
I mean,
He's
I
already
said I came up with it. I came up with it based on what you said. Yeah.
The question is that so he was out fairly early on a flat, there tons of bait activity. While he waited, 2 other boats came in, fished a little bit, then they left. All he managed was 1 blow up that he missed, a few ladyfish, small black drum. Question is, what did the other 2 boats see that I didn't see that made them move along?
Yeah.
Was it, you know, the ladyfish, dolphin in a nearby channel, whatever? I may or may not have been drinking when I answered this.
No wonder you can't remember.
I mean, I don't know what time of day it was, but mostly I've been on Facebook at night pretty late and Camille's been out of town. I told him it was their ignition key. That's what they saw. And my answer stands. Far too many people just bounce spot to spot without any real idea why they're even moving.
That gave me the idea.
A clue why they're moving.
Exactly. That gave me the idea.
They don't know why, and they don't know why they moved to someplace else. They don't have a plan.
So do y'all notice how Scott couldn't just roll with the flow? He had to go investigate the whole situation, evaluate it, and then here we are.
Well, I was thinking my answer must have been pretty good or important for John to have remembered what I said.
No, I said up front, it gave me the idea. Okay, what makes you want to move? Because let me be completely honest here.
No, they're never really important, Scott. They're just questions.
I have this constant internal struggle of curiosity about a spot that's a long run away. And it's just me. I know it's not just me, but like I'm fishing this area. And I'm looking at the wind and I'm looking at, everything that we always talk about on this podcast, and it ain't happening. It ain't happening, Caleb. It just ain't happening. I'm like, well, what if I run all the way to blah, blah, blah? Like maybe only total. And it goes against everything I know, everything we talk about on this podcast. But I just like, I'm going to make a big run. Maybe they're over there. It's just a constant internal struggle for me.
I used to struggle with the wanting to make a long run to check something out. And 2 people played a big role in me learning to not make that long run just off a whim. And that was George W. Bush and Joe Biden and $3 to $5 gas. Now I don't struggle with it near as much. And I should thank both of them.
You should. But you know me, I've said it on this podcast.
And
I always tell myself it's just gas.
But to hear Caleb say that, Caleb launches in Aransas Pass and goes the 9-mile hole.
Yeah, well, that's Daniel's gas, dog.
And so you have to put what a long run in perspective in Caleb's mind. He'll launch in Galveston and go to Louisiana.
This is fair. This is fair.
And so
it's just Daniel's gas.
Yeah.
It's just gas.
Yeah.
It's just Daniel's gas.
I think Ransom Flats to Mud Island is a long run.
Yeah,
you should. Well, I mean,
and I
you
can
just have
see
to
it.
You should understand the difference between how much gas and whose gas.
That's true. That's
a
But
big
Scott,
thing.
Scott, you've been doing this forever. You know how to read better than just about anybody. Do you still struggle with that sometimes? Like maybe I could go all the way to blah blah. I've been fishing for damn near 50 years, and I still like. Wonder if I go all the way to. I'm just trying to think of an example, like Lighthouse, and I'm in Ransom. I'm like, maybe I'll go all the way to Light. Maybe I go to the jetties. I mean, it's just constantly.
No,
That's
I think more in terms of like what I just said a while ago. Of I just need to move to a place that has a different kind of bottom. I need to move to a place that has a different flow to it. Maybe a little closer to the pass where there might be a little more water movement, a little cooler water when it's hot. I think in those terms, and I know enough places and I know my area well enough that I know I don't have to go very far to change it up. And I can move quarter mile and have completely different water, different conditions. So I don't really do that. Now on the tarpon side, yeah, it bugs me sometimes. I'm in close, I'm in 10 feet of water, I'm looking, nothing's happening. We did it today. We went from 10 feet of water out to 35 feet of water, and we still didn't find a tarpon. But yeah, I'll do it more on the tarpon thing because tarpon moves.
Okay, so wait a minute. I have a question. So how far is it from 10 feet to 35 feet from the beach?
It's not that
if you
far.
go in a straight line, it's not that far.
No, it's not that far. But the change is I'm running parallel to the beach in 10 to 15 feet of water for miles and miles, and I'm looking for fish. So running out and then running back in that 35 feet of water is a big difference. There's quite a change.
That's called burning the shoreline.
That's not burning the shoreline.
But Dean, you're the king of, I'm fishing with Dean or whatever, and he's like, let's take a ride. He goes, let's take a ride. How many times you heard him say that?
Off.
Yeah, how many times you heard Dean say that?
And then, it's got a lot to do with the area that you're in. In Redfish Bay, there's a lot of opportunity in short distances, and you can get as creative as you want. You can go to across the ship channel over to Shamrock Flats. You can go to East Flats. You can go north, and cross Aransas Bay and go to Mud and St. Joe and all of those things. So it depends on the area that you're at too. Some places require longer runs to be creative, and then other places might not require such a long run to shift gears.
Caleb, you got me curious. I don't think I've ever asked you this, and I know some of our listeners are thinking the same thing. What's the longest run you've ever made in a tournament? Like from the weigh-in spot to where you fished?
One way or two or both ways?
No, one way.
One way, probably about 130 miles.
What?
Something like that. Yeah, 130, 140 maybe. Yeah, we had to stop and get gas twice. I think we had 2.5 hours of total fishing time that we could spend.
Did it pay off?
Yeah, it did. Well, I mean, for me, because Daniel replaced the prop. So.
That's a good payoff.
For me, when I was fishing redfish, we ran 54 miles one time in a poling skiff.
Good Lord!
Just because I knew exactly where the fish were. I knew what fish that I wanted, and they were easy fish, and I knew we could get them quick. And it was just a matter. And my poling skiff, that poor poling skiff ran like 29 miles an hour.
You're burning it.
And I was flat out, man. I was going. And yeah, when I told my tournament partner where we were fishing, because he wasn't scouting, I was. And when I told him where we were fishing, he goes, "Can we trailer over there?"
No, not this time.
To put it into perspective, for the World Series, which was out of Lake Charles last year, I spent 5 days scouting in Matagorda, and had we found fish there, we would have ran there.
Yeah,
like it.
That's funny that
tournament. It's a different game.
No, it's a different animal. Yeah,
that's funny that Caleb said it paid off for him, but it was kind of break even for Daniel.
Yeah. Dean,
That's
did you
an
ever do that?
expensive route, bro.
Did you ever make those long runs back in the heyday?
I have never been so foolish in my life.
What's the
Yeah.
longest run me and you made? About 1,100 miles
That, yeah, that well,
in a
that
Dodge
was
pickup.
that was in the truck at 120 miles an hour, nonstop.
Well, now you got to share with the class.
So yeah, we drove back and forth to Florida and we broke land speed records. The funniest story that ever came out of that is we're coming home on a Sunday morning and we're halfway through Alabama in a construction zone and we're going, I think we were doing 130 that day because we were on a mission. Nah, I exaggerate a little bit, but we were breaking some rules. And so this Alabama Highway Patrol Sheriff Buford T. Justice pulls us over, and he's got the Marine Corps drill sergeant hat and them glasses that are scary when you see a cop wearing them. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm shitting my pants. I'm like, we about to get pistol whipped. I'm about to get drug out of this truck. And then he gets up to the truck, and Scott was still active cop, and he shows his little credentials and stuff, and he's like, have a nice day, sir. You be careful out there.
Golly.
I don't think Dean's ever told the class about the secret cop waves.
Yeah, that was another secret that Scott told me. Never foolish enough to try that one either.
Dean used to say, man, how in the hell do you drive past them and don't even get pulled over? They just like, how do y'all know the truck? How do they understand the truck? I said, man, it's a secret wave. And he goes, what's a secret wave? And I had my hand on the steering wheel and we're driving. I just raised my middle finger. I said, just do that to him when you pass by.
Yeah,
you wouldn't do it.
I wonder why.
I couldn't believe the cops we passed and did not get pulled over. But yeah, that Alabama County Mountie, man, that was I still don't understand how that worked out.
Yeah, he had that Smokey the Bear hat. I was a little concerned because he looked like the kind that might ride his mama.
And he was still old school though. And before he gets back in his car, we're out of sight.
He's like, see ya. I got a tournament to go to. I got some fishing to do.
We were on our way home, man. That was after like 7 days on the road, and all we wanted to do was get home. And yep, bag of powdered donuts, some Dr. Peppers, and some Red Man, and a cup to pee in, and we ain't stopping. Plus, that Dodge diesel would hold like 180 gallons of fuel.
Yeah.
I don't know where it went, but man, it would go from Florida to Texas without stopping.
Dean fell asleep one time in Louisiana. I think we made the best stop over there. We got his some boudin. He ate boudin. He had a full belly, just like a little baby. He went to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And when I pulled in to get fuel, he woke up. He said, "Where are we at, man? How long have I been asleep?" I said, "We're in Florida, man."
In Tallahassee. we were in the panhandle of Florida.
He says, "What happened to Mississippi? What about Alabama?"
I know those were some little narrow states, but damn.
Who took Mississippi and Alabama?
I was just happy it was halfway over when I woke up.
He was out. See, and I'm all proud of all these big long runs I've made from College Station to South Padre, thinking, I'm a hardcore. Man, that ain't squat. That ain't squat.
Whenever Steve got hit by the car, Daniel made it from New Orleans to College Station in 4.5 hours.
God.
Pulling a boat through that construction. I don't think he got under 90. It was the doctor, the vet said that they gave him some sort of morphine or something that it would knock out the pain for 5 hours. And Daniel said, "Say less, buddy. We're out of here."
5 hours is about right.
It was, dude. I mean, dude was rolling.
Well, I like where this conversation went from what makes you move to what makes you go 130 miles an hour to Mississippi. This is what I love about the podcast. Absolutely. All right, so let's talk about this right here. This is another question. and this is because Dean, I'm gonna start with you on this one because I know, fishing in a boat near you occasionally in the last few weeks. We've both seen the same thing and been texting. Bait everywhere, bait in a lot of places, but it doesn't always mean something. So the question becomes, when does bait behavior mean something? And I know the answer. I'm not going to go to you, Caleb, because you're going to say that means fish aren't there. But when does bait? When does
actually
bait?
Have the answer for this one. I'm working on a video for this one right now. But
all right, well, you're next. You're next. When does bait behavior mean something, and when does it not?
I'm going to defer to Caleb.
How about that, Caleb?
Man, damn it, Dean! You had to give me a chance to get an answer together. I was just rebutting.
What? Was you Googling it?
I was winging it.
Yeah.
Now, so me and Robert Jones fished this weekend. Well, we trolled. Scott knows the rest of that story. But we were in areas that, good gosh, you could never seen so many mullet. And Robert brought the point. He said, you always do these videos about finding bait. You need to do a video about whenever bait sucks. And I said, you know what? You got a point there.
We were on the same
And
vibe.
there was mullet. I mean, they were jumping. It was, and I'm talking. There wasn't a 6-inch circle didn't have a mullet coming out at any given moment. The tide had fallen out, and so what was probably a 20-acre back lake was now a 15-foot wide channel, right? And it's boiling with bait. And Scott's brought this up before, and it's something I really didn't think about, but now I live by it. As we're moving down that channel, that bait's just in front of us. It's boiling. It's going everywhere, and it's spooking any fish that are up there. There's nothing natural about just mullet just blowing past you, looking like a crowd running you over. And they're jumping. They're doing all the stuff that the typical guy would be like, dude, there's no shot I can't catch a fish in here. But too much bait is terribly bad. And then the mullet that's just doing the big long jumps, that shows you there's some bait here, but that mullet doesn't care. I like them. I like to see their tail wagging, pedaling when they come out of the water. If they kind of, it's not the long straight, like however graceful a mullet can be. It's more of a kind of like a flip. Anything kind of panicky or scared looking, I get into. And even when we're running the beachfront and those pogies are everywhere, they're going to sit there and pop forever and ever. But whenever a bunch of them are coming out at once, and there's some, and there's you can tell if they're spooked. You can tell if they're throwing off their natural movement. That's when I'll really get into it. But whenever you're asking that question, my mind immediately went to when there's just a ton of bait and it's boiling and going everywhere, but there's no rhyme or reason to where it's boiling from, right?
Yeah. Let me ask you this, Scott, because when I was in that same situation, bait everywhere, no fish, but you knew they were around somewhere. I did the classic, just get off the shoreline a little. We were near a shoreline. Get off the shoreline a little bit, and maybe something's pushing. It's very basic stuff, but it worked. So what are some of the ideas that you might have?
I like to see them bunch up. We call it bait balls.
Yeah.
If they're all scattered out and they're just being happy mullet and they're just all wandering around, there's no fear in them. When they're playing, I don't want to be the man on the outside and they want to be the man in the middle.
Exactly.
That's when I get excited about it. Same thing on the beachfront. If I'm seeing wads of bait and it's all tight, I'm going to stop and hang out in that area. I know there's some predators around that are making them get tight. Bait gets in balls so that it looks bigger and it's not individuals that can be picked off. So if you see the bait just kind of scattered out, it doesn't mean near as much. But when it gets, the tighter it gets, the more excited I get about it, that something's gonna happen there, that there's some predators in the area. They don't go to the top and hang out on the top because of the birds.
Yeah.
They'd rather stay down. So if they're up top and they're balled up, that's even better.
Because they're getting pushed. Dean, what are your thoughts when you see that same thing? And we've seen it a lot lately.
Well, I like to see them getting blasted out of the water, man. You can tell when they're lazy jumping, or
when they're dying. That's a good clue.
Oh, I saw a few just pop the bait, just go straight up.
Yeah,
I think we're onto something.
When you get them, when you see the whole school just get blasted, I guess my juice is flowing.
Yeah.
But and then on those big schools like that, I mean, I'm always going to fish around the fringes of them, not necessarily in the middle. I'll make a pass through the middle, but I always feel like the bigger fish are going to be patrolling around the perimeter of those big mega schools of mullet.
All right.
We saw some on the beachfront today that the dusky anchovies are starting up, and they're still pretty small. And we saw a lot of whitewater skipping around. And that was out some pretty far out in some deeper water. We saw a few birds working, and got out there, and it was little Spanish mackerel about 8 to 10, 12 inches long that were just slashing everything. But they'd ball them up, and then they disappear, and they get them balled back up again, and then they start slashing. And there was this little black-tip shark that was about 2 feet long, and that dude was having a blast in there, man. He was just zigzagging on the top and going back and forth. So, and the birds were going nuts. So that's when you know things are happening. You know, if you're seeing that bait fish, the bait was coming out of the water. It was all balled up. The birds were on top of it. Those are all clues that things are happening.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something, Caleb. My bad.
I'm sorry.
Cut.
No, actually, right in there, I'll put a really cool interview that we had with just about 6-7 minutes with Colin Killen, who went to iCast. So he's got some insight on iCast. So we'll listen to that right there. So let's get to what would Scott do? What would Caleb do? What would Dean do? And, obviously, before we get to that, want to make sure everybody understands that we have the Bite Me podcast Feeding Frenzy presented by On Point Roofing coming up within a month from tomorrow. Today we're recording on August 20th. A month from tomorrow is going to be the Feeding Frenzy. I'll get the update on all the things. We have a couple of questions here and there about when are we going to know if we're on the list of the first 200. We're paying for the meals for the first 200. Keep RSVPing. We may have to cut it off if it gets too big, but I think right now we're at about 350 people. It's going to be an absolute blast. We're going to have the casting contest. We're going to raffle off a boat. Yes, a 21-foot Commander. If you haven't heard that on the podcast already, with a 150 Suzuki and a power pole and the Coastline trailer. That's going to be raffled off with all the donations going to Heroes on the Water and Texas Boys Outdoors. You really don't want to miss it. And it's just, if you're not the first 200, it's just $15 for the meal, for all the entertainment, for the silent auction, for the live auction, for all of it. Get down there. It's going to be an absolute blast. And we're going to start picking up, some of these items that we're going to have for silent auction, as I mentioned earlier. But let's start with Captain Caleb. Captain Caleb, hey. You've been doing a lot of stuff on Anglers Anonymous. If you want to plug that a little bit, because we always want to make sure everybody understands all the resources that they have for fishing, and also what you would do this weekend. You've been all over. Yeah, no, we've been doing a lot of stuff on angleru.com. Heck, a lot of people in here are members of it. The biggest thing that is becoming the hit is every Wednesday night at 7 we have some sort of name on. We've had Scott, we've had Dean, we've had Mickey Eastman, we've had Chuck McKinney, we've got Wayne Davis this week, and it's just like this setup where you have the people can type on the right, except instead of me doing the hard work and writing a rundown like John, we're just answering questions off the right. It's an interactive experience, and have a good time with it. We've been giving away turtle boxes, baits, reels, Laguna rods, all kinds of stuff. Anyway, yeah. So if you think you can get down with that, right now I'm gonna be dead honest. It is hard for us to get a lot of content out because it is so stinking hot and things are pretty slow. And I don't want to put repetitive stuff up. I don't want to put quantity up. I want to put quality up. But when it cools down here in a little bit, it's
Caleb likes those webinars because there's no proofreading.
That's right.
There's no grammatical corrections.
Yes.
I had a hacker from Zimbabwe write me in Zimbabwean dialect, and it was easier to read than Dean's freaking fishing report. Anyway,
for I know that I proofread yesterday and corrected it, so you could copy and paste yesterday.
The last couple have been pretty solid, Dean. Before that, anytime Dean's brain sputtered at all, he just put in a comma. and it's
Well, it's talk to text. If there's a dramatic pause, it adds a comma.
When in doubt, comma. When in doubt, comma.
I don't know how there's a dramatic pause between and then and then we. All right.
I was thinking.
Yeah, you got to think like how
I said,
Dean talks.
like I said,
And
when there's a
then
stutter, there's a comma.
we, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But for this week on Angler U, if it works out, what I'm going to do this weekend, what Captain Caleb would do, is I'm going to be out looking for chicken dolphin, bull reds, and triple tail in the surf, like near. I won't go further than 10 miles. We're going to go look for structure for chicken dolphin and triple tail. But earlier in the day, we're going to just kind of cruise a mile or two out and look for schools of bull reds, which Adam Weller sent me the thing. He said he's going to fish the surf this weekend. It looks a little choppy for a bay boat. Scott, I don't know what you've been seeing.
yeah,
I think
Scott, jump in here. By the way, heat index today, Scott, 116 degrees.
It's bad.
116.
Man, this morning that north wind was blowing, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get some yard work done." And boy, as soon as that north wind put a comma in it, it got hot, sir.
Nah, I've been out the last 3 days, and I mean, it is like it's set on broil.
Yes,
it is so freaking hot out there. I mean, we're fishing from daylight until 2:30, 3 o'clock, and it's hot. I mean, and it's all cool and everything. You know, you think, man, I want a light wind day out there on the beachfront. That'll be nice. You know, we get light winds. We can see the fish. It'll be nice and calm until you get it. You wish you had it, and then you get it, and then it sucks. Yeah, Caleb, it's going to be bumpy from what I see.
Yeah.
I got Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all like 1.9, 1.6 feet, 1.9, 1.7, 1.9. It's all right in that range, foot and a half to 2 foot, which is not bad, except that it's at 4 seconds.
Yeah.
And that's what I've been dealing with for the last week. And it's just choppy. It's a little bit of an uncomfortable ride. It's not terrible, but it's definitely not, you know, ice cream conditions by any means. But as long as the wind's not blowing too hard, then you don't have the little white caps, so you can actually see the fish a little bit better. As far as what I would do, I mean, if I was going in the bay, we're on repeat. Go early, get your fishing done early. The problem is we're coming off the full moon right now, so the bite is actually, if it wasn't so damn hot, the bite would be more like 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock, somewhere in there. But as hot as it is, to get that afternoon bite, you're gonna have to go some deep water. Like today, that the bite did start. It started about noon, 1 o'clock, but we were out in 35 feet of water. You know, it was a little bit cooler out there. It wasn't a whole lot cooler, but when I pulled up to the fishing center this afternoon, I glanced down at the temperature, and the tide had come in. It was an incoming tide, which should cool it off a little bit, and it was damn near 94 degrees at the dock on the water temperature. So it's hot.
It's hot. It's hot.
I mean, it's really hot.
Dean, I'm not going to ask you to reiterate what they said, because I'm sure you're kind of along the same lines. Go ahead.
Jacob Bailey, my man over at Texas Offshore Outfitters, who I do all of my offshore fishing with, just texted me and said the blue water is all the way at the beach. However, he also said we're gonna them up.
It is.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you about.
Dean.
The
blue water.
Well,
let's talk about that.
The blue water's up at the boat ramp in Aransas Pass. I mean, it's in the marina, it's in the harbor, it's the channel, the Corpus Christi channel and the Aransas channel is blue. So yeah, I mean, if you kind of want to shift gears from going for, you know, redfish and trout and grinding it out there, hit those channels, look for some Jack Crevalle. It's time, you know, if you're in my neighborhood, the Lydian channel, the Aransas channel, man, we get some big schools of jacks that roam around in there to the jetties. But yeah, I mean, the weekend forecast got like 13 to 15 in the afternoon, so it's not going to calm down overnight. So it might be a little bit rough outside the jetties. But go deep, young man.
Go deep. Go deep.
Yeah, you talk about the blue water. I came in through Pascavallo because I needed to shave a few minutes off so I could get on the podcast. we were still on the beachfront at 2:15.
Oh my Lord.
But I needed to really come flying in. We were running through like 6-7 foot of water coming through the pass, going over the sandbars, and you could see the waves in the sand, the ripples in the sand on the bottom as we're running by. It is unbelievably clear out there right now. It's beautiful.
It's gorgeous. Well, all right, Dean. Obviously,
another thing to be keeping an eye out.
Go ahead.
Another thing to be keeping an eye out is me and Pat went about 30 miles out last week, and as we were coming in, I noticed the shrimp boats are getting close. The shrimp boats are like 5 or 6 or 7 miles out, and the closer they get, in September, them dudes are going to be right off the beachfront, and that's when, I'm not making this up, you can catch mahi, you can catch ling, you can catch the big kingfish. You can do all that quarter mile off the shore. So be prepared for that. When that clear water comes in, like Scott's talking about, and the shrimps up close, man, it's a fun month.
I'm glad you brought that up, and we'll probably revisit that here in the next couple of weeks. But Dean, all three of us, are hoping for the best. We know your dad is one tough cookie, and so you got our hopes and wishes there. I know all our listeners, everybody listening to the podcast as well. We got your back on this as best we can.
Appreciate you guys, man. Appreciate it. Thoughts and prayers and love have been coming from all directions.
All right, guys. Appreciate everybody listening. Don't forget to subscribe to the Bite Me podcast on Podbean. We're going to be doing that probably tomorrow morning, so everybody has a chance to listen to the podcast and subscribe and have a good chance to win two pair of Chris Stapleton tickets, real good seats for Saturday night at Minute Maid Park here in Houston. So you guys have a great week, great weekend. Listen to these guys about where to fish if you're going out, because they know what they're talking about. And don't forget to catch them up, and we will talk to you next time.
And don't forget to check your pee hole.